Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok for now. Welcome to the show, everyone. Give me a call, 253-263-1540. 253-263-1540. Welcome to a Monday. Welcome to the show. Good morning on TikTok. Good morning on YouTube. I have not fully integrated these cameras yet. We'll get it done together. Welcome to the show, everybody. Good morning. Hey now. I'm a creature of habit, you know, and by the way, I can't even hear the theme song over here. You can hear it online, I assure you. And one of the things is as I start to integrate this setup and figure out the difference between the pre-recorded podcast with Kenzie and the live show, things will get consolidated down. But right now I have this little speaker that is driving me crazy because I don't need to hear it. It's really there for the benefit of people on TikTok. And quite frankly, I don't really like it. Good morning, everybody. 253-263-1540. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. I say for now because the Supreme Court had their ruling, or excuse me, they held the hearing Friday. It was about 2 hours. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But at any point during the show, they could make their ruling. I mean, they really could. I don't know which way it's going to cut. The media narrative is prepping everybody for a TikTok ban. We'll see what happens. I'm not terribly worried about it. It'd be nice to have it wrapped up. And then, of course, with an incoming administration, you have to question whether or not that whatever happens can then be reversed or will be reversed. So kind of a weird time. Thinking of everybody in California with the wildfires. I feel like wildfire is an understatement. I mean, it is just absolutely tragic what's going on out there. And I have the news on while I'm doing other things behind me. And it's the way that they cover it. And, you know, what I'll do is I have this service so I can go to local channels. So I'd like to watch the press coverage or the press conferences, you know, and actually hear what leadership is saying. So when you can cut away from the cable news of it all and actually hear what the first responders, or at least the leadership, is saying in respect to what the first responders are doing. And obviously they're doing the best they can, and they're doing an incredible job. But it's a, you know, you watch cable news, and it's a lot of, I don't know how to use any other word. It's pornography. They will bring somebody on and they will sort of milk their tragedy. And obviously the people choose to come on and share their stories. But then I feel as though with cable news, they poke and they prod and they poke and they prod. And they're like, oh, well, this is really, really must be horrible for you. And it is horrible. It's tragic. But there's just something about the way cable news chooses to approach things that seems very, very like they're glorifying it or they're celebrating it oddly. And that's all cable news. So you watch these press conferences. And by the way, it goes to show you, because this was not the first thing I intended to talk about, but I don't know how you don't address the fires and you don't address the situation going on out there first. So here we are. So I'm watching these press conferences. And, you know, and I'll often be looking on Twitter just to see what's being said. By the way, 253-263-1540. And, you know, the fascination seems to be with this whole DEI narrative, particularly on Twitter. And then it shifts towards well, there's a photo that's going around. Oh, look at the three women leading the fire department, leading not the fire department, but leading Los Angeles Fire. It is a department, but it's much bigger than that. And then it's like, oh, well, look at them. They're all lesbians. They're all minorities. All these different things. And my first thing is to go look and realize that that's three people out of a much larger leadership team that is Los Angeles Fire. And then on top of that, I have to ask myself, what is the obsession with people? And Kenzie and I touched on this yesterday, but what is the obsession with people that don't look like us or don't remind us of ourselves? You know, and then we use this corporate term to hide behind what is really just overt bigotry. And I find it interesting, particularly when we start to talk about sexual orientation. I find it particularly interesting that in a country that is so uptight about sex, that the most conservative folks, well, I shouldn't just say the most conservative folks, but the most extreme folks on both sides, and I don't even like the term sides, but they are there, in a nation that is so uptight about sex, we are so obsessed with other people's sexual orientation. Who cares what the leadership is doing? Who cares what anybody is doing behind closed doors? I care what they're doing out in public. And that's where the real problem is. The real problem is what's happening out in front of our faces. And while our first responders are out there doing everything that they can possibly do, it is the overt failure of leadership that we should be focused on and not worried about what anybody, anywhere, is doing. Who cares? It is so stupid to me. I'm so mystified when you reduce it down. And again, Kenzie and I talked about this yesterday. Under the Influence is the name of the podcast. This show, the show I do with Kenzie on the weekend. So wherever you listen to your podcast, if you're listening now on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening on TikTok, thank you. But the podcast is put out over the weekend. We do a pre-record, and then we'll do the live ones right now. So if you were missing any of the conversation I'm referencing, Under the Influence, wherever you get your podcast. We're just so afraid of anything that doesn't look like us, anything that doesn't represent us, anything that we can't understand. And I'm mystified by that, because when you reduce it down to just the fact that people spend so much time obsessing over other people's differences as they relate to them. In other words, what does it really, really matter? At the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of people who have just had their lives upended. And irrespective of what they look like, irrespective of what they may believe or how much money they may have in the bank, they are all suffering the same. Maybe some more than others. Maybe that's a fair assessment. They're all suffering in the same experience. It's an experience nonetheless. It is a shared tragedy. And when I look at those photos, when I look at those aerial shots of just the Palisades just decimated, I can't even believe it. I have had the news. I generally have the news playing, but I'll put it on the TV if there's really a reason to. And I've had it on the TV more than not. I having lived in California, Southern California for 2 decades, and growing up as a kid, absolutely adored the idea of being able to say I lived in Southern California. And just looking at the tragedy. And then you see the hate-filled responses. And you're just like, what happened to us? Like, what happened to us as a people? You know, where did it go wrong for us as a people? Because there was a time where we didn't talk about things like politics. We didn't talk about things like sexual orientation. We didn't talk about our religion. You may practice it, you may communicate it, but it didn't matter, right? Like, that's your business. You know, and what you choose to do in your time is your time. But when you show up at work or you show up in a public facing environment, no, you checked all that. Right. And I get that social media has sort of opened up all of these different channels for people to express themselves and then in turn feel very loud and supported by whatever sort of pocket of the internet they have found. But much like Kenzie and I discussed yesterday, when you start trying to say, "Oh well, look at how you handled things over in the Middle East," well, then this is what you get. That's not how it works. And B, that's not making a case for anybody. And I just don't understand how we're ever going to get back to just being human beings towards each other. You know? Now, this is not what I wanted to open the show with. It's a real downer, but it's reality. I wanted to start by complaining about a donut because, and I'm going to go back to the donut for a minute, and we'll get back to this very serious conversation because it's way more fun to complain about a donut for a minute. So pump the brakes, U-turn. I made the worst cup of coffee this morning. I tried to make a cold cup of coffee and not go and do my routine and go to Dunkin'. Now, lately, I'm not even a donut person, okay? In fact, when I lived in California, I would often just make a giant pour over, not even a press pot, a pour over of espresso and drink it at home. Somewhere between leaving California and moving to Florida, I have tripled down on my consumption of iced coffee. Now, I drank it in California for sure, but not, I mean, the way I drink iced coffee post-pandemic it's a whole nother level. So I've developed this routine, and again, I blame Catherine for the Starbucks of it all. But I got so into the gamification of the apps with Starbucks and everything. And then I realized that Dunkin', not only it was in my Walmart. I used to see the Dunkin' sign and be like, it's not really Dunkin'. It's just a Dunkin' in a Walmart. Well, guess what? It counts. But the way my brain is wired, I'm like, that's a Dunkin' annex at best. But guess what? It works. So now I got the Dunkin' app, right? So now it's become this routine for me to play it, to get my cup of coffee in the morning and play into these apps. And it's not even that I'm playing into the apps. I'm just cognizant. I'm like, a couple more points, I'll unlock a coffee. So maybe I'll go to Dunkin'. Like, I'm just cognizant. And I really do blame Catherine for that. So I'm not a big donut person. I'm not a big sweets person. Although Keena sent me these I'm whispering like I'm looking around like somebody's going to hear me because I ate them all. But Keena sent me this box of like chocolate covered like pecan. I don't even know what it was. It was like a bark or something. Toffee. Oh my gosh. But I'm really not. I'm not a big sweets person, right? And really, I don't even want a lot of bread in the morning. Like when it comes to like bagels, like I got into the $6 meal deal with Dunkin'. Like it's not even about that for me. I really, in the morning, all I want is I want the best possible cup of coffee I can have. And a little bite. A little breakfast sandwich. I don't mind a scone. Okay, but I'm not a, when I was younger, Boston cream jelly donut, sure. Now, how do we go from wildfires to donuts? I was just trying to open up the show with a lighthearted conversation. But stream of consciousness led me elsewhere. So enjoy this break from reality because we're going to get back there. But I wanted to gripe about this. So I'm not like, I'm going there for the coffee. Then I got into the meal deal. Then they got away from the $6 meal deal. They went to the $5 meal deal. I'm fine. It's even better now. I get a little bite to eat. It's less bread. It's these little fakakta wraps. I got my iced coffee. I'm very happy with my iced coffee. It's like a baby in its bottle. I get my iced coffee. Whatever I made over there is not it. But it's called marketing for a reason. They want you to get something else. So now I'm there. I'm like, oh, you know, like maybe I should get a little something sweet. Go with this coffee. Especially if I'm coming back in the afternoon for that second cup of coffee. Maybe I've unlocked a free cup of coffee. Whatever it is. So I found the French cruller. What do I like about the French cruller? It's airy. It's light. It feels like it's got a filling, but it doesn't. It's sweet. Not too sweet. Okay, it's not sweet like a Boston cream biting in, getting all the filling. But it's light and it's airy. I had not really had this much of this donut in my life ever until going to the Dunkin' Donut annex at the Walmart. Which, by the way, they really should just give me free coffee there. So, now I get the cruller. I come back in the afternoon, get my free cup of coffee off the app every couple days, whatever, and I'll treat myself and I'll pair it with a cruller. Now they're winning because I'm paying almost $2 for a donut. All right. And now I start to think about the margins. And actually, I have in my mind how much money this Dunkin' Donuts is pulling down a month, you know, occupying just a couple square feet of space in the Walmart. But I've gone from not acknowledging their existence to thinking about their business model and their revenue. So anyway, I get into this cruller. Well, for the last week, I can't get it. I'm going in. I don't know if I'm going in too late in the day. I don't know what's going on, but they're wiped out of the cruller. So now, because I don't want a donut covered in a whole bunch of dreck, okay, which is Yiddish for crap, all right, I get the old-fashioned donut. And there always seems to be a rung or two of those up there because it's plain, but it's more calories. All right. It's a thicker, cakier donut. So now it's just more of everything. The cruller was less calories. All right. Not that I'm counting my calories, but it says it right there. So my brain has absorbed the difference. Okay. It's light. It's airy. It's sweet. You know, I don't even mind getting two of them. Okay. It's still better off than two old fashions. So now here I am. I'm chasing the cruller. I haven't seen this cruller, and I don't want it in the morning when I get breakfast. I don't want that. You know, I just wanted a little bite, a little nosh with my large iced black coffee in the afternoon. And I can't get this cruller. And I go in, and it's the same girl for the last 3 days, and I go, no crullers? And she's like, no. And I'm like, what is going on? I was like, who knew this donut was so popular? She goes, I don't know. I was like, am I coming in too late? She goes, I come in late every day. They're already gone when I come in. This is unbelievable. So I don't know who's buying up all the French crullers, but please stop. Because at some point, I'm going to finish this show, and I'm going to upload it, and I'm going to think, geez, I've done enough work. It's time to go get a cup of coffee, especially today with whatever it is that's over there that looks like a liquid tan M&M in a cup. Okay, it's a light brown. I don't know what it is. I drank it. It tastes like water. I just want a French cruller now. I don't even need to be eating a donut. I'm trying to, I want to lose some weight. You know what I mean? But now I can't. I've gamified my own. I don't need the app. I've gamified my own experience with this fakakta donut. Anyway, that's what I wanted to start the show with. Was complaining about a donut because I didn't even know this thing existed. Now I can't get it, and now it's like a quest, and I feel like I'm like Zelda or something. Not Zelda, but, you know, I feel like somebody, I don't know, Cookie Monster. I don't know. I feel like somebody in pursuit of the donut. I don't know what the analogy is because I haven't had a good cup of coffee. 253-263-1540. If you can't tell, I have two microphones here because one microphone is for one setup and one microphone is for the other. So I added this little extra arm in there. How fancy is that? Look at us go. 253-263-1540. I am getting ready to do another marathon, which would involve going to the parks and really using all of that as a springboard for more experimentation. I've had a couple days of just sort of tinkering and figuring some stuff out. So I'm getting ready to get back into that mode again. And, we were supposed to go to Live Fest. So really, I would have come back from Live Fest Sunday. So really, I would have only been just coming back a day or so ago. So as I stated with to Kenzie on the podcast with that time over the weekend, since Friday, I've done a lot of reorganizing. I've taken the room upstairs that I used to do this broadcast from, and that has become the full-on prize room. I moved the wheel up there, some of the lights, the interactive lighting and stuff like that up there. I moved all the prizes up there. So that's like a full-on room to do prize giveaways and things like that. I mean, that room it's just a store. So then I've opened up this room down here. I've made this much more enjoyable, both to work in and to live in. I have a box from Colleen from Pampered Chef. I have a cookbook from Jen. So we're getting there. I've been 3D printing stuff. I've been corresponding with FlashForge. There's another printer coming out soon. There's a lot going on. I'm only one person. I'm ready for some help again. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. I hope it sounds good on TikTok. I hope it sounds good on YouTube. So I was supposed to, it's a weird week. I was supposed to go, we're leaving the donut conversation and getting back to reality. I'm supposed to be in California. And Friday was also the Supreme Court hearing on the future of TikTok. So it's sort of a weird week of news between the tragedy in California, the quote-unquote TikTok event, and then, of course, the Supreme Court of it all. So sort of a weird week of news. And I was glued Friday to everything. I had the TV on behind me, getting the feed with the fires. I had my laptop open in front of me, listening to the Supreme Court hearing, which went on for a couple hours. I feel like it went on for 3 hours. It might have gone on for over 2, maybe not quite 3, somewhere between that. And it's weird. It's a weird time. We're entering a new administration, and all these folks out there in California are still fighting these fires, and these winds are picking up, and these folks are gonna be faced with having to rebuild, and I don't know how they're gonna do it. And what frightens me for them is that leadership is so bad. Leadership is so bad on all fronts. I mean, the state leadership, the federal leadership, it's just so bad. And when Gavin Newsom can't take accountability, and I know they got to deal with the tragedy first. I mean, listen, what are you going to do? You can't start firing people and having people resign in the middle of all this. I think that's just a terrible idea. But I think when we see that our leadership has failed to the extent that they have, and then you have the chaos of this incoming administration, I really, really hope that at some point people start to wake up to the fact that those are lives out there, those are human lives out there, those are people's livelihoods. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. Like, I'm just so tired of that. The fact that we're talking about, oh my gosh, what's the new administration going to do in respect to the funding? Like, how is that even a thing? How is that even a thing? You know, and then you introduce Elon Musk into the equation. And I understand sometimes the guy's trying to help, and I don't know what he's actually doing out there. But I'm tired of seeing him pop up everywhere. I mean, he's like the Seidler from Seinfeld. You're like, when did Elon get here? I didn't even hear anybody walk into the room, and then boom, there's Elon Musk. You know, and he doesn't exemplify any decorum. So even if he's trying to be helpful, I find his presence anywhere to be highly disruptive. I never liked Elon Musk. I mean, I didn't like Elon Musk the first time I ever heard of Elon Musk. I never liked Elon Musk. And I remember being in college. And there was a guy who was assigned to me. I was a freshman. And he was a junior, senior or something. I don't know. They had a mentor program. And they put us in this mentor program. And I don't remember why or what it was, but it was really nothing. I think we just got the new dorm. We got like the new rooms. I don't remember. There was really no, whatever the catalyst was. And this guy, in fact, if I recall, the way that they structured it was there was the freshmen on one side of the dorm, on the one side of the floor, and right on the other side of the hall were the mentors. So this guy wasn't my mentor. He was a buddy who became a buddy of mine. He was his quote-unquote mentor. But you're all just college kids, right? You're all just college kids. It was like, oh, here's somebody that you formally are introduced to that's going to show you the ropes. Whatever. So there was this particular guy, and this will relate back to Elon Musk. This particular guy. And he wasn't my mentor, which made him even more annoying. I'd be like, Royce, you really need to work on your resume. Royce, you really need to work on your resume. Like, less partying and work on your resume. First of all, I'm not a big party person, okay? But you really need to think about your life and work on your resume. Okay. This guy didn't know me at all. I had probably been on my 5th or 6th resume of my life by the time I was a freshman in college. So I would just roll my eyes. I'm like, what do you, okay, whatever. Sure, buddy. Go talk to somebody else. Go mentor somebody else. Couple years out of college, Facebook is popular. And I guess at some point, I don't know where Elon comes into the cultural zeitgeist particularly, but I know that this guy was very, very big into Tesla. And he was on a waiting list to be one of the first to get a Tesla. And he was like, Elon Musk is my man crush, and like all of these different things. And I remember seeing these posts and being like, ugh. Like, that was my response. I was like, ugh. Like, I always knew you were kind of a doofus. And then I saw that. I was like, ugh. Click. I'm like, I don't want to follow that guy anymore. That's fair. That's what social media is. Now, what I didn't tell you is I introduced him to his wife. That's a whole different story. So kind of weird how these little, you have these sort of moments of energy where you meet somebody and you never see them again, but you're like, oh yeah, I remember like that guy, I was talking to someone and then he came over and boom, bada bing, bada boom. They met each other and they're married. Now they have like 4 kids together. And I never spoke to him again. I just remember seeing him on Facebook out of college and realizing that he thought this is way back, like during the release of the first Tesla, him being like an Elon nerd and being like, oh, my man crush. And I'm like, ugh, I always knew you lacked judgment. Right. So anyway, I digress, but that must have killed 6 minutes. So all of that to say, I can't stand Elon Musk. I don't want Elon Musk involved in our government. I don't want Elon Musk involved in anything. I don't trust him. I feel like he's a bad villain because he's not that smart, but he's got enough power and reach and money. And then I also feel like, there's the whole cult of Elon. And if you push back and you say you don't like Elon Musk, then, you get a whole lot of grief because, oh, look at what Elon's trying to do. But Elon's not trying to do anything. And even Steve Bannon apparently came out the other day and said Elon won't have any access to the White House. So wait to see how that plays out, because Elon to me comes off like a toddler with way too much time on his hands and access to an airplane and a bankroll. That's what Elon Musk is to me. He's a toddler. So I don't know what he's doing in California. I hope he's helping. I'm tired of seeing the man pop up everywhere. Yeah, I take great umbrage with the lack of leadership and the poor leadership out there. But right now, I think that everybody needs to focus on the crisis, the tragedy at hand, because it's still going on. But when it's done, there needs to be a mass evaluation because it is a critical failure. And then, I'm watching these interviews and they're thinking, well, the water system was never designed to be used like this. In other words, no amount of water, and it's not just access to water, but then it's the distribution, right? Because you can have all this water sitting there, but if you can't distribute it effectively, then what? Right? So you see all this talk about that, and I can't help but think, well, wait a second. And maybe it's too soon to have this conversation. You know who'd be a good, and I'm not looking at the chat, so Rob, if you're here, but you're the first person that comes to mind. But my thought is, where's the investment on solving the problem on the front end? We live in a Band-Aid culture. Everything tries to get solved on the back end. Yeah, water is what we need now to put out fires. But from a prevention perspective, why do you have all these power lines whipping around in the wind? Like, where do we start to invest in the future of our cities and not wait for them to burn down to rebuild them, but actually rebuild them and upgrade them, and to use a Disney term, plus them when we can, and invest in our future before it's too late? Now, I understand that, the notion of a rebuilding will present that opportunity, but at a massive, massive detriment. But that's what I would ask. Epcot was supposed to be Progress City. Progress City was supposed to be the future of tomorrow. It was supposed to be a prototypical city looking towards the future. You can't help but wonder how different things would have been if we actually had a futuristic city in Orlando instead of a theme park. You have to ask yourself, how different would things be? We don't have any investment, to my knowledge, in the cities of tomorrow, in futuristic, and I shouldn't even use the term futuristic cities. They're smart cities. Do we have any investment in smart cities in this country? Because it's not futuristic, because it's now. It's no longer, that's what was so crazy about Walt Disney. He wanted to build a future city in Orlando that in many ways would have doubled as a tourist attraction. But imagine where that city would be today if that foundation was built when he wanted it to be built. Now, People are just arguing over rides and re-themes and all that kind of nuttiness. But his idea was so much bigger. And then you look and you realize how much time has slipped away in respect to that. Do you see Elon Musk building a smart city? No. Could he? Yes. I know Mr. Beast built a city for a dumb TV show. But where's our investment? I mean, it's one thing to go, oh my gosh, what a tragedy. I can't believe. I get it. Like, it's happening in real time. But how did this happen? And in the moment, yeah, we got to deal with the problem at hand. But I mean, I think when it's all said and done, you have to go, this was not a surprise. It was only a matter of time. And you can question leadership, but you also, look, we elect these idiots. We elect these people. So at a certain point, we got to start taking responsibility for our actions. And if we don't like our leaders, then we have to start replacing them with ourselves. Right? I mean, that's the real talk. Because it's so easy to point fingers at leaders and blame them for failure. But get off your butt and run and take over these offices. There are far smarter people out there than Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. Unfortunately, these are the leaders in this moment. And it sucks to even have to be politicizing it. And I don't even really think it's a politicization, because any leaders that I can point to in the current climate, I would call bad. I can't think of too many leaders that I would prop up in this environment. Okay, but our leaders have failed us. Where is the investment in our cities? It used to be called wildfire season. It was fire season. It was a season, which means you knew. I question where the real leaders are in this country. I question where the real innovators are, and why we can't get ahead of this, and what's the response going to be in other cities. Not to say that everybody's got the same problems that Southern California has with the Santa Ana winds and all of that, but an investment in our future is an investment in our future. And developing something at the prototypical level in one city may actually yield a benefit in another city. So you got to start somewhere. That's why I go back to the idea of Epcot and Progress City. Can you imagine? By the way this mic keeps going, I'm slouching down. I'm getting very relaxed. And I'm like, hey, let's just get a pillow here and take a nap. But why don't we have solutions on the front end to these problems? And why are we constantly waiting for crisis before we actually respond? Yeah, you could go, oh, well, why was the mayor up in the air? Why was she traveling? Why wasn't she there? She knew that things could get bad and blah, 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 blah. That's one issue. But the larger issue is, after decades of dealing with these issues and knowing that they were only going to get worse, and that there was the potential for something this tragic to occur, where was the desire to be preventative? Where is the desire to get ahead of it? Where is the proactive nature? And I'm not just pointing to California. I'm just pointing to leadership as a whole. Where do we actually, where do we trade out these goobers, okay, whether it's at the state level or the federal level, for real working class Americans, real working class people that actually know what it's like to have to get up early and grind it out until it's dark and go home and pass out and wake up and do it again. Those are the kind of people that I want leading. The people that actually know how to get their hands dirty. The people that don't just know how to get things done, but get them done themselves. When I see that video of Gavin Newsom, here's the thing. If you're a leader and you're in a situation like that, the last thing you're supposed to do is to even remotely push blame on anyone below you. Okay? He's the governor of the state. He may not know what happened, but what happened to the phrase "the buck stops here"? I don't have all the answers, but I am the governor. It is my responsibility, and this is a failure of epic proportion. And we will not stop until we get to the bottom of it. On my watch, my failure, the buck stops here. Where is that kind of leadership? I'm not saying you have to have all the answers, and I'm not saying everything needs to go off without a hitch, but just stand up there. Like, pull up your trousers, okay? And I mean that in more ways than one, even though I didn't when I started to say it, but you'd Google it, okay? And own it. Even if you're not responsible for it, own it. These are my people. This is my state. This is my tragedy. We will get through this together. I will lead you through this crisis. No. He was squirming when that woman came up to him when he was trying to get on the phone with the president. He was squirming. He was squirming. Not squirming as much as I squirm when I look at that photo of him lying on the floor with his ex. You know the photo. I squirm every time I look at that photo. But sometimes I Google it on purpose. Because it's funny to tell people about that picture who don't know it exists. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. It's the recovery that I'm thinking about, and they're not even through the tragedy. It's just sad. It's just sad. It's just really, really sad. It's really, really sad. And then on top of that, not that I personally care about the Olympics, because I don't like the Olympics, and I know people are going to think that's a crazy statement, but I'm not a big Olympics person. I think it's a lot of wasted money. But LA's supposed to host the Olympics. I can't imagine that's going to happen now. I don't know. I also just looked down and saw that we are no longer recording, which is weird, is because I was recording this whole show. So that's a wild one. We're going to have to figure that one out. I'm not sure what to do about that. Perfect time for an ad break. Completely derailed by the fact that I looked down and saw that it wasn't recording. That's weird because it was recording, but that's all right. I have redundancy. That really threw me. Let's go real quick and do these ads. We'll take your calls on the other side of this ad break. 253-263-1540. 253-263-1540. I don't know what you said there about the phones. It's a new year, which means it's time to spice up your kitchen. Pampered Chef has all the goodies from spatulas, mandolins, amazing pots and pans, and knives. Plus, don't miss out on the small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and coffee maker. Spice up your kitchen by going to pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman today. With no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, an incomplete or divided estate, and legal fights and fees. If you live in Florida, contact RK Law for a free consultation to discuss the options and tools you have available to protect your home, savings, and estate for those you love the most. To get started, send an email to russell@rklawpro.com, russell@rklawpro.com, or call 786-566-2456 to set up your consultation today. Last minute shipping from the parks. Maybe you're local, you need a notary or a P.O. box. Go visit my friends at the UPS store located right behind the Magic Kingdom at 6526 Old Brick Road. That's the UPS store located right behind the Magic Kingdom at 6526 Old Brick Road. And as always, if you're looking to book travel, William Bailey will help you with not just booking a cruise or a trip to Disney or even a Disney cruise, but really anywhere you're looking to go in the world. William Bailey is your one-stop shop for customized travel experiences and competitive rates. You can go to my website and you can fill out the travel form, William.bailey, William.bailey at academytravel.com. Thank you very much. Those are our sponsors. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. Boy, I got to tell you, that really threw me for a loop because I know I hit the record button and I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was the donut conversation. Now, in Disney news, a former Disney employee has pleaded guilty to federal charges for hacking into one of the company's computer systems and removing life-saving allergy information from restaurant menus. I'm going to read that again. A former Disney employee has pled guilty to federal charges for hacking into one of the company's computer systems and removing life-saving allergy information from the restaurant menus. Now, first of all, I saw a photo of this guy. All right. This guy doesn't look like he could hack a bonsai with a chainsaw, let alone an internet server, okay? So I don't know if that speaks more to his skills or the fact that Disney probably has really, really bad security when it comes to their servers. Number one. Number two, and I'm gonna guess that that's the case, knowing the fact that Disney's got rides that are on DOS. Not an exaggeration. But also, it speaks to how miserable some of these cast members are because Disney doesn't do anything for them anymore. You know, I can tell you firsthand, when you de-incentivize the cast members, not only do they not want to do their job, okay, but they become spiteful. And I've heard the stories, and I'm not excusing it by any stretch of the imagination. But like it's weird because you got to ask yourself what the motive is, as if it matters, because obviously this guy's psychotic to do that. But obviously he's disgruntled. And knowing what I know and from the stories I've heard, there's a lot of disgruntled people that are just tired of it. Now, it doesn't just apply to Disney. It's corporate America as a whole. So you can't just blame Disney. It just happens to be coming out of Disney's company. And then also, you have to ask yourself, how do they not catch this? With all this technology, you're going to tell me that there's not upkeep on these menus? I mean, this reminds me of the story from Russell with the drink with the alcohol in it that didn't have alcohol in it. And now we're talking about, and it reminds me of the Raglan Road case where the woman, it was tragic. The woman passed away from a food allergy. So you're going to tell me you don't have a system in place that periodically checks your menus to ensure that everything's accurate? With all the AI in the world that's out there, you can't somehow not only control the access to that stuff, but then actually manage it and control it and make sure that the information's up to date. I don't believe that this guy hacked into anything. This guy doesn't look like a hacker. And I know that might be a judgmental thing to say, but there's no way this guy's a hacker. Okay? So there's probably more to this story. I think it's very easy to use the term hack. We use it all the time now. Life hack. You're like, that's not a life hack. That's called using the product correctly. So I don't think this guy hacked into anything, which just begs another question of access. Where is this information being stored? Who has access to it? Who's controlling it or not managing it? But that's a huge, that's not only is that a crime, but that's the difference between somebody's life. First thing I thought of was that Raglan Road case. Not saying that one has anything to do with the other, but that's certainly, a result of bad information. Absolutely tragic. Now, usually, you don't, it's very infrequently that you hear anything negative when it comes to stuff like that with Disney, because when it comes to dietary restrictions, food allergies, and things like that, Disney's pretty good. But this is one that you can't even fault them. I mean, obviously they need a better system of checks, but you can't really fault them. This wasn't them, but you do have to ask questions. It also made me think of another situation that happened, I guess almost 8 months ago now, 6-7 months ago, with another cast member in Epcot. And it comes to my attention that story didn't get a lot of press. And it's funny how that works, but there's definitely some strange people out there in the world, and some of them are definitely being employed at Disney. But I don't blame Disney for that. That's a world issue. That's a world issue, for sure. Now, sticking to the Disney side of things, the conventional gripe is they've gotten so lazy with these remakes. And they have. But they're coasting, and you have to ask yourself why. And then you have to ask yourself, can you fault them, or do you fault the consumer? I mean, it's like the culture in many ways allows the remakes, right? I mean, they're making money. Maybe they're not making money hand over fist like the originals, but like playing it safe seems to work. I saw a comment. This is more parks than movies, but it's in the same vein of what we're talking about. And this person wrote, "My son and I love amusement parks, kid's 12. We've been going to Disney multiple times. We also go to Legoland. I'm paraphrasing. Legoland, Universal. I realized that we don't care about the theme at all. All that matters to us is how much fun we had on the ride and how long we waited." And, from the movie perspective, I guess you could use that theory, or you could use that comment as a theory. But from the theme park perspective, if that really represents the data that Disney is using, then it makes perfect sense that they're phoning it in. And if all people care about is how much fun am I having and how long did I wait, it really does speak to the culture. People are, like just grasping for escapism. So the last thing they want to do with everything they're dealing with in the real world, okay, and it seems so trite to be talking about a theme park right now, okay, but with everything going on, the last thing they want to do is feel like they need to wait, right? Like, oh, I want instant gratification. Like, entertainment is instant gratification in this world that we're living in. And that's what people really, really want. So you look at a company like Disney and you go, oh, okay, you're phoning it in. You're coasting. Can I blame you? Maybe not. Because it's safe and it works. And by the way, I caught 3 seconds of Mufasa on the TV service I have. And then I read the Wikipedia description. It's a total retcon. And I think retcons are so lazy. And if you know what I mean by a retcon, is they retroactively change or convert the story. And to me, a retcon is like as lazy as you're watching a movie and then you find out the whole movie's a dream. The character just had a dream. So I'm like, really? Mufasa's a retcon on top of all of that? But I think you got to stop faulting Disney. You got to stop faulting Disney for phoning it in the theme parks, for phoning it in the movies. When you look at the culture as a whole, it's an instant gratification culture. It's scroll. A movie's all about quick cuts. Everything's very, very rapid. Nobody really wants to take the time to appreciate anything. Everything's about the destination. Nothing's about the journey. In my 20s, I wouldn't have even wrapped my head around that idea. So I look at that and I go, you know what? Maybe we blame the culture. Maybe we blame the culture. You know, it's so easy to look at these companies and look at our leaders and point fingers and blame people. But then you got to stop and you got to go, well, at what point do we have control? At what point can we change everything? The way we treat other people, the way we consume things, the way we elect leadership. I mean, it really does all start at the local level. It really all does start with how we choose at the local level to carry ourselves, to treat other people. And I go back to what I said yesterday with Kenzie and I said earlier today, which feels like I've been talking for 2 hours, and according to that timer it says 13 minutes, which is a total slap in the face. But we're so afraid of differences. We're so afraid of anything that we can't relate to, that we vilify people now, to the extent that we don't even care who suffers. And that's what really I find really, really disheartening with this tragedy in California, with these fires. It doesn't matter how much money somebody has. It doesn't matter what they look like. None of these things matter. At the end of the day, it's human beings who lost their home. And for some people, it's their only home. For some people, it might be one of several homes. Who cares? Who cares? It's a human experience of losing, you know? And then there's the tragedy of life lost. It just and I'm like, and I guess obviously if you go to Twitter, you're going to get inundated with the nastiest, the lowest common denominator of just absolute troll level commentary. But still, I mean, it represents something. And I mean, I'm not on Facebook, so who knows what's being said over there. I would love to hear some of your thoughts on that. You can always call, the number 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. But it's just this place we're in as a people where everything is just so vilified. And there's just no understanding for anything or anybody that doesn't match your ideologies or your skin tone or your preferences. It's just wild to me. It's wild. And I'm looking at these aerial shots of everything just being destroyed. And I'm like, where do all these people go? Like, that's my number one thought is, where are all these people going to go? I mean, California is huge, but still, like, where are they going to go? How many of them are going to leave the state? How many of them are going to stick around? And if they stick around, where are they going to go? How many people won't recover from this? How many people won't find their way back into a home? Because that's a reality too. I don't care what, and to look at any of that and go, well, they got plenty of money, or they're Republican, or they're Democrat. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. Human beings suffering. It should like the fact that there are people out there that go, yeah, well, that's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get for backing Israel. California must burn. What? What? What does one have to do with the other? Suffering is suffering. Nobody wants to see people suffer unjustly. It's a crazy time we're living in. It's a crazy time. You know, and then I go back to this new administration and you look at the way they're presenting it. I mean, it's like CNN the other day. Like, I'm glad that people are more dialed into politics than ever, but maybe I'm not. Maybe because it's for all the wrong reasons. But like CNN is talking about like the appointment hearings coming up for the new administration. And I thought it was like an Apprentice promo. And I'm like, this is where I go, like, how did we get here? Like, how did we, honest to God, how did we get here? I remember being in the 3rd grade. I remember opening up a textbook and the term global warming was in the textbook. You know, it was taught. It was taught. Now, you can talk about textbooks, and that's a whole nother ball of wax, okay? But it was taught. This is also at the same time as the Exxon Valdez oil spill. You know, back then, the environment wasn't politicized. The idea of recycling was still being introduced. Recycling bins were being introduced into neighborhoods. People were talking about conservation. I remember constantly growing up being told, turn off the lights when you leave the room. Turn off the lights when you leave the room. Don't waste water. Don't leave the water running. And then at some point, that all became politicized. And I just don't know. I don't, it's very depressing. I don't know how we got, and again, I've always wanted to see more people being, you know, dialed into what's going on, myself included. Okay. So like, yeah, great. I'm glad there's more people that are dialed into cabinet appointment hearings, but not because we're watching the sinking ship. Those are the wrong reasons to be invested in something. Not because it's train wreck television. You know, maybe if people were watching and paying attention and invested in these things because of the potential outcome, because people were actually trying to affect change, then maybe our culture would be different. So, you know, and these were really, I mean, these are all the thoughts that I'm having because I'm watching these fires just absolutely destroy Southern California. And as much as you want to blame the leaders, I go, man, we elected these people. I remember when Gavin Newsom was the spry young mayor from San Francisco, you know, and we prop them up and we prop these people up. You know, and we don't elect people because of what they're saying necessarily, because 9 times out of 10, they don't even honor what they're saying. Sometimes we're electing people for what they're saying. I think this current president-elect got elected for what he's saying, and you're going to see that he's going to retread on half of it. But that's what they do at that level. Okay? But like, you know, like television, you go back to television changed the way we elect people because now you're electing on appearance, you know. The reason Gavin Newsom, because he was a pretty boy when he came on the scene with the nicely coiffed hair, okay, and everyone like, oh, you know, he looked the part. Well, guess what? That doesn't get you very far. You know, and it's not the right time to really be like, maybe it is the right time to be holding them accountable. But it's not the right time to ask anyone to resign. I don't believe that. Okay, get through the tragedy first. But then we got to just look at ourselves and go, man, what have we done? What have we done? You know, we put our lives in the hands of these leaders and just to get away from California and bring it back to the national level where this pendulum swings, right? These people didn't do it for us. We'll go back to these ones. Well, when are we going to do it for ourselves? Like, that's what I want to know. When are we going to do it for ourselves? When are we going to take the bull by the horns and take control of the situation? And that's not a violent thing. That's called running for office. Like, I mean, when there's room for people like Matt Gaetz in Congress, then a lot of y'all need to ask yourselves, maybe it's time for me to run. Like, just think about that for a second. When Matt Gaetz can get elected to Congress, ask yourself why you are not a congressman. Ask yourself why you are not a congresswoman. At a certain point, it is incumbent upon us to take control of the situation. If that guy can get elected, there's nobody watching that can't get elected. You've been on hold. I don't have any phone calls. I apologize. You're on the air. You know what? I don't know why this phone system, I'm going to make a note right now. Why is this phone system not refreshing? Hello.
That's okay. Not like I had anything important to talk about, but
I would have loved to have stopped talking 10 minutes ago, maybe 2 hours ago.
Well, you have a lot to say. But no, I just wanted to call because going back to the wildfires in California. I had the news on today, and it's so sad. And being so far away from everything, there's something that like I wish I could do. It seems to be getting worse. They're spreading. But I was reading online, and this is going back to people being very judgy. Mandy Moore is getting criticized. I don't know if you read about it. She's getting criticized over putting up a GoFundMe page for her brother-in-law and sister-in-law. I guess they're expecting a baby and they lost their fire. They lost their house in the fire. But people are saying, you have all this money in the world. Why are you posting a GoFundMe page for your relatives when you should be helping them? But she lost her house too as well. And it's like she can't just put out something to support her in-laws without being judged for it.
Well, okay, not that I want to play this game, but it is radio and we have time, and I did see this post. How much money do we think Mandy Moore has?
Probably more than I can ever imagine.
No way. Mandy Moore can't have more than $2 million combined in assets and liquidity. There's no way.
Well, right. And that's more than I could imagine, obviously.
That's not that much money. Wait a second. $2 million. If you live in California, that's a house. That's a house. And then some investments and some cash.
Right.
Like it's not that. So if she lost, and I don't know what she lost, but if she lost stuff and her family lost stuff, they're going to need all the help they can get, especially with the fact that the insurance isn't going to be there. So it's this notion that Mandy Moore is rich is crazy to me.
Right.
And then you got to factor in lifestyle. Just because, people have to understand that if somebody's making more money than you, there's a cost of living difference. So somebody who maybe, and by the way, again, I can't even, I saw this the other day and I was like, Mandy Moore, didn't she do the song Candy? Do you think she's still getting Candy royalties?
Probably not, but she also did This Is Us. She was in that show, which I absolutely loved her in.
Right, but what do you think that This Is Us royalties are at? I mean, wasn't This Is Us on a streaming platform?
No, it was on NBC, and then they put it on streaming.
So sorry. So and then she was on Entourage. I mean, what I'm saying is like these are paychecks, right? She's not Rihanna.
Right.
She doesn't have Rihanna money.
Right.
Rihanna's got Fenty. Rihanna's making more money with Fenty than Rihanna ever made on records, which is why Rihanna's not rushing to make another record.
Mm-hmm.
She's Mandy Moore. She's a working actress. She doesn't have money.
Right. 100%.
It's absurd. And by the way, I don't mean to count Mandy Moore's money, but there ain't that much. If Mandy Moore's worth $2 million, she ain't worth boop. being worth $2 million. I guarantee you most people out there are worth more money than they realize. But at the end of the day, you're counting assets you don't own anyway, unless you truly own your house.
And I think she just built, because I follow her on Instagram, but she just moved and was building a brand new house. So, I mean, look at that. Like, she just built and now it's destroyed by wildfire.
Yeah, and then I saw, Spencer Pratt, and it's wild.
Oh, gosh.
I know. And then people are like, Hulu gives Spencer a show. And I'm like, why are we giving them a show? There's so many people who need a show, and we're just going to dole out shows as a relief program. But
right.
But he's literally trying to make money off the creator fund, and he's like, I got to get this video to a minute so it qualifies. And I'm like, I think I saw a post where it's like, help him get in the top 10 videos for the day so he can make $1,000. And I was like, dude, I feel that, because like maybe they own their house. Like, and by the way, I don't mean own. Maybe they had a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
And maybe they were paying their mortgage, but it doesn't mean that they had a ton of money in the bank. You don't know that they weren't just scraping to get by, but they had that house because they bought it at the height of their success. Like,
right. Because he started in Laguna Beach on that show, and then he starred in The Hills, and he hasn't really done much since then.
Right. And so I thought that was at least a very human moment and relatable, because he's like, oh, I got to make this video a minute.
Right.
But just because they're living in the Palisades doesn't mean that they're rich. Like,
right.
They probably spent every penny they had to be out there. Right,
exactly. And they have kids, and yet factor in the kids aspect. I mean, kids aren't cheap,
Well, that's why you don't see me with kids. I mean, like, I'll never understand that one. I see these videos that people post online where they're like, well, like this is what I'm making my kid for dinner. And you're like, and I think they're like, they make these videos on purpose to get rage. It's like rage bait. But it'll be like, you'll see like, she'll take like the frying pan and a can of Spam, and then she'll pour like a bunch of something on it. And it's just like, you look at that and you're like, did you need to have kids if that's what you're feeding them? Like, and I know that's a horrible thing to say, but like we are a society of people that overextend ourselves. Now, I don't believe those videos are real anyway, so that's why I'm heckling that. But like, yeah, kids are super expensive, but people choose to have children anyway. Why?
Mm-hmm.
We live above our means. I mean, people, yeah. It's also a weird statement to say, and they have kids, as if like, and I know what you meant by it, but as if that should be the thing that make people care.
Right.
But it's horrible. Yeah. I mean, and think about these children. Think about how these kids are, like, they're the mental health, 10 years from now, what these kids are going to be dealing with.
Right.
Where are these kids going to go to school?
I don't know, because their schools are probably all, they're all destroyed.
I'm telling you, I see that photo of the Palisades, that overhead shot, and it is just heartbreaking to me. And I can't wrap my head around it though. Like it doesn't seem real.
Right, exactly. I couldn't imagine, like, I'm going and living my life day by day, but like, I'm not dealing with this tragedy, and it's just, I can't, I don't even know where I would begin.
No, I don't know. I and again, the way, and I know people can hide behind their keyboards, so it makes it easier, but the way people will just say some crazy things like, oh, well, like even it was some Disney blogger, some guy that's been around forever. It wasn't the Tom guy. It was one of these other ones. And it was Twitter. And it was a picture of Mark Hamill. I guess Mark Hamill lost his home.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And Mark Hamill was a huge anti-Trump guy. And the tweet was something to the effect of, I'm not going to say blah, blah, blah. This is horrible for anybody or something like that. And I'm like, then you basically are just saying it anyway. Like, wow. Like you're basically like saying like karma's a bitch to this guy by tweeting that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, why? Like, why are we that caught up in our quote unquote beliefs that to the extent that we have to vilify somebody to the point of like, you lost everything and I might be okay with it and I might actually even celebrate it. Like, that's horrible. That's horrendous.
Right. And you got to look at it like, if roles were reversed and that was happening to them, would they want somebody to say that to them? Probably not.
But why do we even have to introduce those differences into the conversation? That guy would have been better off not sending that tweet.
Right. Just don't say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
The irony.
Kind of thing, you know? But going back to Spencer Pratt, like just for a little bit, there's a creator that I follow. I won't mention his name because I stopped following him. He's very toxic. But he was friends with Spencer Pratt. And he put a video out about how Spencer went live and basically, you know, his mood was down because he just lost his house. And he's like, oh, well, I sent him a Pegasus or something. And he didn't even say thank you. Like, he had the audacity to just be like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, but so you're doing that because you want somebody to see that you're giving. Like, you're not doing it because you want to give. You want the attention of giving money.
Right.
And it just turned my stomach. Like, if we're going to be supportive, if we're going to give money, like, do it from your heart. Like, not for somebody to give you a shout out and be like, look at me, like, I have all of this money and I just sent you this and you could care less. It's mind blowing.
Well, that's another, I mean, that's a whole genre of video, and I can't stand it where there's like, somebody will be like, go up to a homeless person and, you know, do that whole ruse where, like, I don't know, it'll be like a banana. Be like, do you want this banana? And inside the banana is a bunch of money and only the camera can see the money. And you're like, you know what? Just turn off the camera, go help somebody out if you have the money, and stop doing it for the views. Because, like, you helping somebody to benefit yourself is not helping somebody for the right reasons. So, yeah, like, if you really want to help that dude out, send him a Venmo.
Right.
And then if he's not giving you the attention that you wanted, then it speaks volumes to why you did it in the first place. And then obviously going to make that content, it only reiterates the point.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. That is the parasocial issue with gifting as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge problem that I have with TikTok, which is why, quite frankly, if TikTok goes away, I won't miss it. You know, YouTube is trying to embrace that. I think if TikTok goes away, YouTube would abandon that in a heartbeat. But I don't. I think that the idea of gifting is attention driven. So it's not just, I want to support you, but I want everyone to see that I'm supporting you. So the bigger, splashier, most lavish thing I can send is going to get the most attention. And then everyone's going to be talking about me for 5 minutes. And I'm not saying that happens in my lives even, but I'm just saying that that's the general nature of gifting. That's what those animations are done for, you know. What'd you say?
I'm totally doing that when I send you a gift. I said I'm totally doing that when I send you a gift. No.
Some people do, though. Some people do.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but you know what?
Exactly. No, whenever.
I understand what you're saying, but the Pegasus is a huge gift.
Well, right, 100%.
So that's my whole point.
When I gift from the heart. But yeah, like, I'm sorry, I can't afford a Pegasus. You're gonna have to find somebody else.
Can I tell you something? I don't want you to send me a Pegasus. If I have 100 people watching, like, just you want to talk the economics, that's why I like team lifts. I would rather everybody give a little and let it add up than lean on one person. It goes back to the conversation of diversification and moderation. If all of your eggs are in one basket, what happens when that basket shrivels up?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't actually like that. Like and I've said that to people at TikTok. And you know, I mean, I remember a creator at a meeting I had at headquarters was like, well, what if like everybody could like pool to, and I'll use Pegasus as an example, but like, what if like I could just get like people to contribute towards a Pegasus? And I'm like, well, what's the point? Like you could just have them do that in the Discord quietly, but like, what's the point? Like, you don't need the Pegasus. If there's 5 people that have enough to contribute, let them each contribute individually. The Pegasus is just smoke and mirrors. So I've always, and that's why I like team lifting, is those little team bracelets are worth like 2 cents or something. Okay. But if everybody's contributing, that adds up so quick. And then because everybody's contributing, when it comes down to a competition where we're actually trying to move on the leaderboard, you have the weight to do it. It's not scalable to rely on one person for revenue. It's a wild concept, but that's just me giving you inside baseball. It's another reason why I don't really care if TikTok goes away. I, with this podcast and other things, have been trying to diversify my revenue. I don't want to lean on the audience. I would much rather Colleen be a sponsor and people go check out Pampered Chef and Colleen's products and transact and feel like they're actually getting something. Right? Because that's the traditional ad model. But what TikTok has done is leverage the direct-to-consumer ad model and then kind of beaten it to death. And now you're like, well, every time I go live, I basically need to ask my audience for money if I want to make a living. And I don't want to go live every day and ask my audience for money. You know, I'm going to be really, really honest with you. What? Go on.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
You first.
The delay kills me. No, I was going to say, like, when I first joined TikTok, I went live for a little bit, and it's hard, first of all. Second of all, I didn't have anybody coming in, like maybe 2 people max, but it's not something that I could sit and do and expect people to come and join, you know?
Yeah, and when I was running around the park, and, you know, originally doing it for my own mental health and then doing it, you know, as a monetary endeavor, that's all well and good. But you also realize that, like, at the end of the day, you're still putting your eggs in one basket because you'll have 2 or 3 or 4 people that will be your mass contributors. And you've got the Disney backbone. If one or the other or both of those get removed from the equation, what do you have left, right? So that's where the diversification comes in, not just of the revenue streams, but the content as a whole, which is why I find our success in Live Fest this year, placing number 7, to be more of a success than last year at number 4, because we did it without going into the park. And it was the power,
right? Exactly.
But it's the power of individuals lending their support, you know, and the way that adds up. And what I was going to say a moment ago, and the delay kills me too, and it's just the nature of everything. But what I was going to say is the other day, you know, I mean, I've said this many times over the last couple of weeks. Oftentimes when I'm not live, it's because I'm just doing stuff, and I tried to do a certain level of this tech stuff I've been working on while live. But sometimes it's just easier to put my head down. And like the other day, I sold an arcade game bright and early in the morning. It really wasn't bright and early, but I had sold the day before and he was coming and whatever, it was ready to go. But I was like, oh, I made my money today. I just afforded myself the opportunity to spend a little more time researching, a little more time developing, a little more time creating. And I don't need to go live today. And because that's where my mind is at, because I got to make a living, but I don't need to make a living from going live. I have a handful of other ways that I can make money. So if I can make my money in a day, then if I can make my money for the day early, then I can turn around and say, what am I going to do with my time today? Maybe I just want to go live and do something that I know isn't going to bring in the views, but people are going to hang and have a good time and I don't have to worry about the gift goals and anything. Or maybe I just want to spend the day tinkering and researching or developing. So I'm just one of these people where I don't care where the money comes from on a given day as an entrepreneur. I just want to find it. And I oftentimes, when I don't go live, it's because at that point I'm either A, busy doing something and I don't want to go live and lose my focus, or I don't want to go live because I don't want to be taking money from people.
Right.
It's a weird thing.
And I feel like you should be able to you should be able to have those breaks though. Like, it kills me, and I don't know how any creator deals with it when people are like, well, when he's going to go live, how come he's not live? And it's like, he has a life outside of TikTok. Like, you should be able, I'm a huge mental health advocate. You should be able to disconnect and not be worried about like, when am I going to go live next? If you have something that you want to do outside of being live, do it. You know, like, if it's going to help your lives further down the road at what you're doing off live, then do it. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's crazy how people just expect you to be live 24/7.
But then there's the expectation of the app, and I don't think people consider that. So when I open up the app and the app goes, well, you've just left ranking A1, now you're B2. Not that I really care, but it is a mechanism that feeds on my competitive nature, and then that's where it goes back to, oh, I got to get that fragment. So I'm like, well, why do I need to be taking money from people today? Like, I made my money today. I just want to hang. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't even want to go live. But like, in my early days, I didn't want to make money on the live because I was in the middle of that lawsuit and I didn't want to build up a business that was going to be taken away from me.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Now I got a full-fledged business, but I'm also like, I'll work when I want to because I'm always working, but it's just sort of like, what am I doing today? Am I doing the podcast? Am I going to go live on TikTok and open up this box and do some kitchen stuff? Or am I going to get on the phone with Kenzie and some other folks and talk about how I want to increase my social media content output and get dialed in on that? I'm probably going to opt to have the call because the call is going to yield much bigger results in a month once we're structured, and worry about going live again later last. Because today, that's top of mind. But that's an entrepreneur. I don't just clock in. When I was in the theme parks every day, it just became a clock in situation, which left no room for development, which is fine. But at a certain point, you got to diversify. I mean, look, I don't even know. Did the Supreme Court make an announcement on TikTok? It could literally happen any minute.
All right. I don't know. I thought it was starting at 10.
No, that was Friday. That was Friday.
Was it?
But I thought that, I just assumed we'd get an announcement immediately, but I don't know. So it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird world we're living in all the way around. I've just to go back to your comment on mental health, I've just learned this far into it to always put my mental health first.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm sorry I left you on hold so long. I gotta reach out to these guys and ask them what's up with that, because it never used to be that way. It used to just push down notifications and I would get them. So.
No, that's okay. I almost did hang up. I'm like, well, maybe he just doesn't want to talk to anybody right now.
No, I didn't. Now that call just came right in. So I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go right to the next call then. Kat, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome.
Talk to you soon. Bye. It's almost like they heard me. 734, you're on the air.
Hey, Ross, it's Kale.
Hey, thank you, Heather, for posting that. What's up, sir?
I want to see how you're doing today.
I'm doing good, man. I'm anticipating the Supreme Court's going to say something today about TikTok, but I don't know. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah? You working today?
Day off today.
All right. Look at you go. What are you going to do?
I don't know. Might at the gym today. Who knows?
The gym? Is there like a Disney college program gym?
Yeah, they have a gym here. They're like 2 pools. So.
Oh. So you don't even have to go anywhere. They got you all situated?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I will, Kale, you've been very helpful. I'm not going to get into the details, but Kale, you've been very helpful, so we'll talk.
All right.
All right. Do you have any questions, anything you want to comment on, or no? That was it?
No, that was it. I just want to say hi to you. So.
You're just testing the phone lines?
Yeah.
All right. Well, your call came right in. That was weird. I don't know what's going on, so we'll get to the bottom of it. All right, Kale, thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
All
Bye.
right, take care. It's Kale, everybody. Kale's been helping me out a little bit. And that's very nice. Now my phone locked me out. I have all my notes here. Oh, okay, so this is so random. And I don't think, is Keena listening? So this is just the random message I get from Keena the other day. So it's so offensive, but not offensive at the same time, but so offensive. And I'm only going to share this because I was just talking about having calls and getting help, and and so Keena's been helping with the newsletter and other things for a long time, and it's just funny the way that people think Keena's so sweet, and she's so sweet. She's so sweet. But then I just get a random message. Did you know if you watch Jaws backwards, it's a movie about a shark that distributes limbs to disabled people? I'm like, Keena, number one, why are you messaging me this? Number two, what's wrong with you? Shame on you. I'm like, Keena, if I made a joke like that in Discord, people would be like, they'd leave. I've had people literally say that I've offended them for making less of a joke than that. As from Keena. So when I go into the Discord and crack a joke, this is the tone of the conversations with people in private. Also, it's hilarious. I started to think about it. I was like, I gotta, it's just you. I gotta get, oh my God, I have to. I was like, I have to tell everybody because it is just too much. And then if I say something like that, boom, offended. So, such is life. So there you go, Keena. That was in my notes to blow up your spot on that. Absolutely hilarious, Keena. Absolutely hilarious. Now, to take a moment like that and just to get serious again, I don't really know how to go from that to a segue to talk about healthcare. It's in there somewhere. I have tears in my eyes. The segue's in there. I'll let you find it on your own. But why don't we have universal health care in this country? I mean, it is where we talk about leadership. You're on the air. Who's this? I don't know how to go from that to that. Who's this? Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Keena? Keena?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you message me that?
Because I knew you would like it.
I'm offended.
No, you're not.
If I said that, people would be like, "Oh my God, I'm leaving. I'm goodbye." Honestly, I've made less offensive jokes and offended more people. But you say it, and it's like, "Oh, that accent's so sweet."
Well, and if
Here, say it again, so we can all hear it.
Me.
We can all hear it with that fake sweet saccharine accent of yours. Go ahead, tell us the joke.
No, I'm just going to say if everybody knew me as well as you do, then they would know that I have disabled people in my own family. So if I'm not offended by it, then the bigger picture is this world we live in right now, everybody gets offended by everything. Oh, my gosh.
So you're using the I know disabled people excuse?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. It wasn't my place. It wasn't my place to share what I know. I mean, that's your story, not mine.
Right. But I'm just saying, I have disabled people in my family. I'll leave it at that. But
so did they tell you the joke?
Actually, no, but I would not have been surprised if it would have come from her, but it didn't.
Did you tell them?
No.
Oh my God.
But she would laugh. I'll have to send it to her today. She would laugh. So yeah, it happens to be a person in my family who could actually benefit from watching that backwards and get a limb given to them because they have one less and they could use it.
You know what's horrible about that?
Just saying.
I honestly started to think about, like, because I didn't respond to that message for like a couple hours. Like, I literally went through the logistics of like the distribution effort of that shark. Like, I literally spent too much time thinking about the logistics. So please stop sending me messages like that. What may I ask, what kind of, was it amputation? Was it was somebody born without a limb?
So yes, I don't mind talking about it. It's my mom. She got a staph infection at the dentist, we think. And because she had artificial knee replacements from having rheumatoid arthritis, the infection went septic and attached to the metal pieces in her knees. So she went through a series of surgeries to have all the metal cleaned out of her knees. And she lived with me and my husband for a long time. We gave her IV antibiotics in our living room in a hospital bed. She's pretty lucky to be here now. So anyway, it eventually got into the bone of her right leg, so she had to have it amputated. So this is a lady who was laying in the pre-op room talking about ways she could use the leg after they remove it.
Like a lamp?
Yes, that was one thing. And then she also said if there were ever children making fun of her or staring at her because she didn't have a leg, she was going to use it to beat them.
You know, I have a friend who was a thalidomide baby. So he's got one hand that doesn't, like, the fingers are all kind of deformed. And when he sees like kids acting up, like if he's in a situation like in an elevator, he'll like point to like the door closing and point to his hand and look at the kids and go like mouth like, no. Like, I'm like, so I guess you gotta laugh at like the hand you're dealt, right?
Yes.
So what?
Yes.
How old was she?
Process. She was young. Let's see. She was, 50, maybe. She's 82 now. But anyway, there's a process. There's a process I think everybody goes through when you have a situation like that. You grieve the loss of a part of your body, which is a serious, serious thing to go through. And it's just, there's a process. So there's anger, there's fear, all these things. Well, you know, at some point you have to get past that. And she she totally has done that. I mean, she wasn't able to use a prosthetic because her upper body strength was too weak from the arthritis. So she's wheelchair bound, but she lives on her own. I have 2 older sisters. We go help her on a rotating basis. So, but she drives. She gets in her car. She goes places.
How old is she
still
now?
Makes jokes. So she's 82.
Holy smokes! So she's. I mean, this is like that's 30 years. I mean, that's almost half of her lifetime at this point.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well, then
She's
that
a
joke's
feisty one.
nothing. That joke is she probably won't even laugh at that joke. She'll be like, that's an oldie.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Whoa.
she'll probably say, I've already told somebody that.
Wow, 30 years. I mean, I thought maybe you would have said like 10 or something, you know?
No, it's been a very long time.
Now, when they were talking, because I want to get into healthcare, but when they were talking about amputating her leg, did you simply try Gatorade and water?
Well, that wasn't an option.
They didn't have Gatorade back then?
We
or
would have
water?
tried it because, yeah, we tried it. We tried everything, but that one was not an option.
Well, that must have been on the PPO. No, in all seriousness, because I was going to talk about healthcare, and you calling actually made it easier to get there. You know, I don't know in that particular situation. You don't have to comment specifically, but you know, our healthcare system seems to be predicated on what I said earlier in the show is the Band-Aid solution. I mean, our culture is sort of a Band-Aid solution culture. We don't really solve problems on the back end. So it's like I was talking about how the dermatologist tried to send me out of there with 5 different medications. We're just constantly slapping Band-Aids on things. And I just can't believe, and I saw a post, it was like somebody was like, she was in the hospital for like, I don't know, a week or 2 or something. And the child was, help me out, prenatal, is that the term I'm looking for? And it was something like a $750,000 bill.
Yeah.
And you just got to go, do we not have universal health care in this country because leadership doesn't want us to have it? In other words, it's not for a lack of trying. I don't understand why health care isn't free in this country. I was going to ask you specifically if there was anything that could have prevented the amputation, but you don't have to go down that road unless you want to. And I was going to ask you how that correlated to the health care of it all, and if perhaps maybe there was some relationship to a lack of care leading to that, and that somehow being able to be prevented with better care up front.
Well, I don't think it could have been prevented. It was just a freak, rare situation. And at the time, I don't remember a lot about it. My sister, who was in banking at the time, dealt with all the bills and the insurance and all that. But I do remember from it that insurance was not a big help. So thankfully, the hospital that she was in for so long had funds that were put in place just to be donated to patients who could not pay their bill, which was my mom at the time. So she got her bill paid by grants and funds from the hospital.
Wild.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know how
crazy.
I don't know how we fix this country. You know, when I don't like Mr. Beast. You know who Mr. Beast is? I'm sure you know who Mr. Beast is.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
He makes some comment the other day because I think he gave, was it limbs to amputees or something? He gave like prosthetic limbs to a bunch of amputees, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that one.
Yeah. I believe that was right. It could have been something else, but whatever. But then his comment was, "It's sad in this country that a YouTuber has to, be the source of health care." And I'm like, okay, well, number one, That's, don't hurt yourself patting yourself on the back. Okay. Number 2, are you really helping people? Because in all these other situations, he hasn't. The Lunchable thing was a epic fail. He built that city for some game show. So I look at that and I go, as much as I get the point he's trying to make, I the fact that he can even say that with a modicum of truth is kind of frightening. We are really, really failing our people. This example in California, it's horrific, but it should come as no surprise. And it's an epic failure of leadership. And we've experienced an epic failure of leadership across the board. I gripe about the VA from time to time. We don't take care of our own. We don't take care of our vets. And these are conscious decisions that the people in Congress are making. So what do we do?
Yeah, it's sad.
Like, why don't you run for office? Why don't you be a congresswoman?
Oh my gosh.
You're better than Matt
nobody
Gates.
wants that.
No offense that I have to compare you to him, but y'all take Keena over Matt Gates any day of the week.
That'd be like Elmo running for
I'll take Elmo over Matt Gates. I think Elmo could legislate. I'm not doing an Elmo voice. I know that's what you're trying to set me up for. I'm not doing it. But
No, I'm not asking for that.
I just think that I think we get to a point where where when you start to evaluate things, you go, oh gosh, maybe the problem really is just us. In other words, maybe the problem isn't leadership. As much as we can point to leadership as being a problem, maybe the problem is that we've put too much faith in other people. Maybe it's just time that we take control of things and get it done ourselves. But we're always looking,
Chief. So you go.
We're always looking for a savior. I assure you, Elon Musk is not it. I can't stand Elon Musk.
It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out with Elon and all the interesting people coming
in. Yeah, but he's not. It's just he's weighing in on so many different. He's weighing in on so many different countries' governments. Like, one person shouldn't, and him owning Twitter has given him this sort of bullhorn. It's just too much power for one person. And I don't even know if power is the right word. It's too much reach. They call him Elmo, funny enough. Couldn't have planned this conversation any better. But they call him Elmo because it's Elon Musk. Elmo.
Right. Okay.
Right. But but that's not the Elmo that I want.
Right.
No.
All right. Well, I got to go. I just had to respond to the
last question.
Sensitivity
last
of
question.
The joke.
Does this rule apply to the sequels as well? In other words, Jaws 3D, if I play it backwards, is it the same experience in 3D?
I bet it is.
I bet it is too. All right, Keena, I'll talk to you later. I hit all the wrong buttons here. All right. Hey, Izmir with you. Keena, everybody. Thank you, Keena. Oy vey. All right, let's go back to the ads. We'll wrap it up. We'll get out of here because my counter's off. I don't know what's going on. That really bums me out. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to podcast out the show. Let me do the ads, and I'll go back to the phones, and we'll wind it down. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. Those aren't the ads. That's my notes about a donut. It's the new year, which means it's time to spice up your kitchen. Pampered Chef has all the goodies from spatulas, mandolins, amazing pots and pans, and knives. Plus, don't miss out on small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and coffee maker. Spice up your kitchen today by reaching out to Colleen Herman at pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. And with no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, and incomplete or divided estate and legal fights and fees. If you live in Florida, contact RK Law for a free consultation to discuss options and tools you have available to protect your home, savings, and estate for those you love the most. To get started, call or email today, Russell at rklawpro.com or 786-566-2456. Last minute shipping from the parks. Maybe you're local and you need a notary. Visit my friends at the UPS store located right behind the Magic Kingdom at 6526 Old Brick Road. Not only do they have a notary and shipping services, they've got P.O. boxes as well. So go check out the UPS store located at 6526 Old Brick Road, right behind the Magic Kingdom. And as always, William Bailey Travel is available to help you with any of your destination planning, whether it's Disney Cruises or Disney Cruise, or just looking to explore the world. William Bailey provides a customizable experience at competitive rates. Check out William Bailey Travel. You can go fill out the travel form on my website or reach out to William.bailey at academytravel.com. Thank you to our sponsors. Appreciate you. I don't know. I don't know what happened with the record button today. I don't know what happened with the record button. But 253, wow, 253-263-1540. I think the real issue for me today is the lack of coffee. I tried something, it didn't work out. So for all intent and purpose, I've had zero coffee. And that just can't be allowed to ever happen again. I think we're going to hear something very, very soon on the fate of TikTok. I'm curious to see how that shakes out. I mentioned this yesterday with Kenzie. I want to start booking guests. You know, we've laid the foundation for this program, and I want to start booking guests. So whether it's for Sunday with Kenzie, or whether it's guests calling in on the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I want to start talking to folks who are experts in their field, folks who can educate us, shed light on some of the things we've been discussing, and hopefully maybe even answer some questions. So that is my goal, is to focus on bringing in some bookings. If you have anyone that you think would make a good guest, or you want to suggest something, figure out how to do that. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I got to figure out what happened with that, the thing on the thing over there, and why we have a delay on the phone system. I'm going to hang out with you for a minute on TikTok and do a team lift. And then I'm going to figure out where the front of this show is lingering. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.